What is up, guys? It's been a few days since the last cast over for Cosmonarchy Brood War. I'm bringing you the big ones. It's TheShambler against Mystery Meat. And the mystery, TheShambler, the mystery. I guess it's not really a match because it would have to be like the mystery-er, you know what I mean? Or the Mister, well, that doesn't work either because it's not the right shambler, but I guess you're supposed to say shambler. It's supposed to be 2 syllables, so maybe Mr. would work. But you have to do some like rap flow on that one, you know, where like you kind of fuck the pronunciation up for something, but it still works somehow anyway. So anyway, we're on Equilibrium by Veek, so I'm sure he'll be excited to see his map show up here. We have a very forward second Mason coming, so I'm already thinking this is a proxy. Looks like this first scout is coming up a little bit earlier. And so actually Mystery is just going to assume, based on that this is a normal scout. But when he sees that there's nothing in the base, that will be a dead giveaway. So we do have a barracks going down. Now he could do, okay, he puts down a barracks. He's not harvesting any gas, which obviously would be really painful for his build, but would at least, you know, maybe give the illusion that something else is happening. As of right now, it could be, with the hatch first especially, from Mystery. This could be a very fast game, guys. This could be a very quick game. So some light worker biting, nothing too crazy. A little bit slow to get his next worker out there, but I like the attempt. I don't know what it's going to result in. You can land on this high lava over here, so no worries there as far as buildability is concerned. But where can he land it? Can he land it over here and then not, you know, hope it's not scouted? Or is he just going to build units over here and he's probably going to build a bunker, I would imagine, and then lift that up and land it. So he's trying to give Mystery Meat a taste of his old medicine, right? Because this is actually the inversion of the matchup that we normally see, where we see Mist as Terran and we see Shambler as Zerg. So instead we have something a little bit different here. Three shots. 3 shots off. That's 3. Oh, he only needs 2 more. I thought it was going to be 1 more. He might be able to get the moving shot off. There he goes. Yep, 1 more, and that scout is dead. But he wasn't able to do it in time, right? Now we have the Quasrock pool, and oh shit, he saved it. I was surprised by that. It doesn't really amount to anything, but you know, he did spot that, and all of the larvae turned into workers right before. So this is basically GG. Like, I mean, not technically, he can just transfer over. But as soon as this lands, oh, he's actually going to try to stop the landing, as you can see. Well, this is still accomplishing damage, because there's no mining happening in this base, and he has no workers in his other base. So that's a thing. What are you going to do, buddy? He can't even really unload the units, because they will just die to all the workers. So, oh, he could have landed there. He didn't trust himself. Now he's got 2 Zethicors to follow it along. Single Maverick running in here getting owned. Aw, shit, guys. Oh, okay, it lands. Okay, that's an error. Right? Only 2 Mavericks, remember. There's a Maverick and a Huracan patiently waiting here. Obviously, he's seeing what he can bait out here. But at this point, mining has resumed. So it's really not too terrible. Get to snipe a larva. Two Mavericks over here. Trying to stim in, but they do get surrounded. Still none of them getting popped just yet. And he can unload one of the healthy Mavericks, or he's actually going to go for the Mason. That works too. And he wants to build another bunker here, you can tell, because then he can lift that off and ferry out more units without having to go through here. He could just lift the barracks at this point. He hasn't considered that, I don't think. Back at home, he's got a bunker and a second bunker on the way, a watchdog. That will dissuade any sort of attack here. Luckily for Mist, the watchdog picked the far Nathracor. And that does mean that the Nathracor, like, survived, basically. Otherwise, the peppering would have killed him. So this is a Circuit being put down here. And the barracks does lift off. So this is actually fairly good timing here, because most of this stuff is Zethicors, as you can see. Can't attack up with those units. They haven't achieved that level of popularity or power. Nathracor is going in. That's definitely a mistake, and they will be sniped out. One of them was obviously very low from the previous engagement. And what can he do? He has another pair in there. He is starting to slowly get mining over in this direction. But we have a third bunker, rather, being put up here. And with the Huracan out as well in one of these, that's actually really dangerous. Oh, man. It's in such a spot that really pisses you off, I would say. Now, I think this is going to be in range of the Circuit, but I don't know if it can retaliate. It can. So he's going to want to repair that. This is an opportunity for Mist to try to all-in onto the bunker, specifically from a range, and because he wasn't even being repaired, right? But he only had 1 Quasilisk, the other one got owned, so there was a little bit of miss micro there. So now the Kagrant will go down, and that will mean that there's less creep, which means more stuff that you have to watch for. Worker getting sniped. We synced, question mark? And then missed diving in. I think this looks like a Shambler match. Mabby. Well, that is something to consider. Mabby. So they're going to go back and forth here. It does pain me that this is even a possibility that you could actually get desynced in the first place. But also I think it's going to endure as a funny way to be like, are you even playing the game, you fucking idiot? You can't even beat my bunkers. So now he's going to go for the Quasark pull. This should definitely be attempted to be protected. He lost a lot of Zethar cores over here. You can see maybe like 6 or 7 corpses. He is taking a third base, so Mist should be able to, you know, reestablish some macro. He's actually got, you know, okay workers for Zerg, but obviously less than what Shambler has. And he is just going to go ahead and pick these off because Shambler's not paying attention. Oh, actually, he's only able to get 1. That should have been an easy second. I think these are far enough. There's a Hurakan in that bunker, which he can't really know. So at this point, the Hatrosk is dead, done and dusted. This is also the patch where I was supposed to remember to increase the health, and I didn't. So that's a potentially bad thing. Zorki's Shroud coming out. So I think, based on that alone, he can get a single Lakizalisk out, and that will help him defeat the stuff that he's dealing with currently. So there's the Lakizalisk being set up. Nathakor scouting up for an Expo. Shambler is building a second command center, but I feel like he's almost doing so in disbelief. Like, how could I possibly not have won the game now, right? And so the Quasark pool going down as a rebuild because this one is going to be getting targeted down. That is a painful 200 mineral expenditure. We got a couple of idle workers here as well for Mist. And yeah, at this point, he just wants to make sure that he defends against the onslaught of the bunkers. If he had picked off that front Mason, that would have been pretty good. Losing a worker here, really unfortunate. Oh, there you go. There it is. There's no way for this to be responded to just yet, although the height advantage plus the bunker range is going to be absurd for sieging this cliff with bunkers. And he's going to need more Lakizalisks for sure. He has an Ovaleth. I think maybe he intends to drop it in here, but that would be a mistake. I think you'd need more than one for sure. You'd want to clean out this bio and stuff. And he can't afford another one. Remember, it's 100 gas. He should really be diving on harvesting gas from the third base, which is now his second base because his main has died. It's just a single larva left. There's so many bunkers over here. So I don't think busting this is sensible, but he does have enough to, or he did have enough to get another Lakizalisk. What did he? He's queuing it up over at the third, I see. Okay. And yeah, this is going to be very painful. You would have to imagine... Okay, actually the Circuith is in range somehow, right? But you can't repair that, so that's going to be rough. Maybe if he, you know, spread the creep over here to deny it being placed in somewhere else. But yeah, the range increase plus bunker increase, that's 4 extra range. So that, like, it's nuts, guys. It's actually really, really powerful, bunkers on cliffs when firing on the low ground. So, yeah, a little bit rough there. Finally, this command center will be floated over. I think it was sitting there for a little while now. And the Lakizalisk will go down. The army is not in a solid position here. So he might be able to get something done with this. If he just goes ahead and moves it in. When's the reaction? It looks like he's not even noticing it. Now he'll figure it out. There you go. Couple of dead Masons. There you go. 6 Mason kills already. And actually, because of the poor movement here, he's actually going to lose 10 in total. Wow, that's a lot of Mason kills. You can see right down here, he's now below Mystery Meat in Mason count. And yeah, this very singular one has definitely cost him. He's losing even more now. He's going to lose 12 in total, by the way. So there you go. Now down to 19. Knocked down to 19 workers. 2 of them being idle, remember. That second base not being put up. Obviously, if Shambler had just popped his units over here, right, they would have not decollided in that way. Or they would have just not had collision. I don't even know why he bothers to detonate that or safely detonate that, right? That seems a little bit weird. So I don't know what the range on the Lakizalisk is. I don't think it can hit the... Oh, it actually can just barely tickle the bunker. But only for 1 hit. So it is going to get lifted off anyway. It's a little bit of a quirk that they the second hit doesn't spawn exactly in the same spot, I think, or something. So when it returns, it doesn't always deal damage in that sense. But now this is definitely going to be close enough. Now the Ant-Seal is being produced, but it's probably a little bit too late here. You definitely have to say that the game has swung in favor of Mist. Like, there's just no question about it. I mean, there's all these bunkers, but they can't move forward, right? There's now 2 Lakizilisks here. A couple of workers that are being transferred over are just going to get sniped by the bunkers, so he's lost 2 of them. But he's able to get the others out just fine, safely. This command center has lifted off, but hasn't gone to a 3rd base, right? There's a couple of Nathrakors actually blocking that anyway. And now the Antseal is here to detect. Yeah, unfortunately, the Lakizilisk is not actually handled by the Antseal yet. So that's what Shambler is finding out now. You can thank Lard for that, and also, I guess, us, because we don't know how to fix that yet. Now they're just going to keep burrowing around. That one is dead, so that is a very costly mistake by Mystery Meat. And you can see the cliff range increase is not actually... it's not actually doing anything, so he's going to go ahead and lose the second one as well. That's another you can thank Lard for. I actually had just noted these issues in the Trello recently. Technically, they've been in the game for quite a while, but nice to have a record of them. And now there's a permanent record on my YouTube channel as well. But yeah, Lakizilisks are handled in super hard-codey fashions, as you might expect. And now a 3rd base going up in the top left corner here. Mist has a lot of minerals, and actually a decent amount of gas as well. He could go for a Hydrock Den for some more frontal attacks or something to that effect. The Antseal here means that the Lakizilisks are going to be less effective, just because you can actually see them from a range. Now, if you guys are confused, there was a point in time where the Lakizilisk would reveal itself when attacking, but now it just works like any other burrowed unit, where if you're standing on top of it, you will indeed see the threat. It's 1 HP on that Lakizilisk, so you have to imagine that that would have helped out quite a bit. Now, the bunker creeping is going to send Mist backwards. And he still can't really do anything about the stuff in his main. But it's static, right? It's not moving. You know, he could, Shambler could lift this off, maybe deny some more of the bases. But I think he's let this game run away from him. All Mist needs to do now is go for... It looks like he's gonna... He's okay, this is actually a mistake, right? And I can understand why. Like, you might think to yourself, I just need tech. But you don't really. Like, you could win this with Tier 1 tech fairly quickly, actually. And going to Tier 2 is not necessarily a mistake, but the extreme setup time and the fact that Shambler is now on 2 bases to your 3, which your 3rd one isn't even set up yet. Like, he's climbed back in. He's now in the lead with workers, although many of them aren't doing anything. He could obviously take a 3rd base, and he could be relatively insulated from your current attacks. You can't really do anything as Mist at this point, unless you augment your army with additional units, right? You need a Hydrock Den of some kind, is what I would suspect. Or, with all these macro hatches, maybe you can pump out a bunch of other units. But you want to spend the gas anyway. Now, he is going to go for the Iral Iris. So that's why he saw that he had 400-something gas, and he was like, yeah, I'll just get Tier 2. Now, it can work, but you're giving the window of opportunity back to the Shambler, where he can start to use all of these assets that he has, pre-placed in a few spots. He has lost the Front Mason. I'm sure he'll never forgive himself for that loss. And so he's going to set up a contain around the Nat. I don't think he has recognized that there's another base anywhere, but that's pretty good. I don't know what this was. I think there was a 3rd command center being put there. I don't know how or why it would have gotten canceled by a single Lakizilisk. That doesn't make any sense to me. But that's actually really bad for the Shambler, because he does want to be up in bases. He is setting up an Atlas now in the back, so he's also going to go for Tier 2. And at which point, the game kind of equalizes, right? So if the Lakizilisk in that situation was trying to flee, and the flee movement point it got was on the other side of the cliff, so it decided to flee into the bunker, which is that's peak Lard right there, you know what I mean? So the Antseal has to move back over to that spot to cover this angle. I think that means that, like, if the Lakizilisk is in range on even ground, right, then the Mavericks should be able to shoot it, I believe. What do Mavericks have? I guess, yeah, so they'll have exactly 7 range, because they have 5 range by default, so all good there. Good saturation now for the Shambler. What's the tech going to be? He's going to go for the Tier 2 Swarm node, and that means... I'm trying to think about what he would want to do. Like, he doesn't have a crazy amount of gas, so he can't necessarily go for, like... he could go for a bunch of Calculisks. I'm not sure if he's going to plan on doing that. He is getting a lot of Nathrakor, so I guess that's what it is. He already bought the Nathrakor, so he already spent the initial volley of gas. So this remaining amount of gas is definitely good enough for Calculisks. But the captaincies are coming up. Sentinels as well, if I had to suspect. And now that Tier 2 is done, you have to wonder that maybe this game will go on for a little bit longer, right? I'm not sure if it will be a decisive dub. The Lachesis that are surviving are mostly containing. We have like a cross-contain here, which is really funny. We have the contain from the Shambler on this nat, and then we have the contain from Mist on this area. But this isn't really a crazy contain, right? He's already forced that Lachesis back, I think. Oh no, maybe it's not been forced back, but the Ancient just has to move a little bit further up. Here come all of the Calculisks. A single Sentinel is up, dealing some AoE damage. Actually, this might have hit at just the perfect time. Because the captaincies aren't finished. But there are a decent amount of anti-air structures still around, or there were. I guess they all died already. Bunkers coming in should push this back, especially if he moves the Ancient along with it. And yeah, here's a Watchdog landing. And the captaincies are finished, but not spinning. And there's nobody trying to repair this. There's an Ancient sitting right over here that could also help. Isn't going to happen. Shambler a little bit too slow on the draw here. Definitely a winnable position, or at least a position where he could have fired back and not died. But it looks like with the loss of that first captaincy, with the fact that this gas isn't being harvested from. And yeah, they don't actually outrange bunkers. They have 7 range, which is the exact same as a Maverick in a bunker. So I'm not sure what exactly he's talking about. Probably getting tismed. An Apostle being trained. Atlas lifted off. Where's he going to go? He can't build Sentinels while the Atlas is lifted off. So this is a little bit awkward. He's going to go for some Watchdogs. He has this third command center, but he isn't using it for anything. And he hasn't really shifted his bunkers into a useful position either. Sentinel going down here, but I think the money is just too far away. Obviously, you can see Mist taking the base that was supposed to be Shambler's third, probably. Or, you know, could have been. One of the options would have been for Shambler to get a third. I don't think that was canceled. Now the Apostle is up, but it hasn't started to use its ability yet. Could get sniped here if he's not careful. Yeah, okay, it just goes straight down the shitter. That's 125 gas, I believe. A considerable investment. And the biggest problem is now you can't build it. The biggest issue is the time cost being so heavy. And yeah, he's just... I don't think that the Shambler has really used his tech or his existing units that he already had to a great advantage, right? He had the Ancient right here with the bunker being attacked, surrounded by Masons. Could have protected the Masons from the Calculus piercing damage with the Ancient and also repaired it. The bunker, that is. And then the bunker would have just safely removed any chance for the Calculus to get anything done. This Atlas still hasn't fucking landed. So he still only got Watchdogs. It looks like it was landed at some point so that he could have built the Sentinel. But those are just going to get destroyed anyway. And now he's got nothing over here. And I think maybe the Shambler... Maybe now Mist could fire back with a "we synced?" question mark? Because it looks to me like Shambler might be at the end of the rope. Very slow to move his units around. You're only as good as your weakest link, and that's what Shambler is being forced to learn here. This, by the way, this is just like a small spattering of Calculus. You look at the money, you look at the other units that it has, like this game is pretty much over. And, you know, maybe the Shambler just had no idea that there were, like, all these bases, right? I think that's probably why he's still in the game. If he knew the base count of Mist, then he would probably say, oh, okay, we're yeah, 100%, we're good. GG. But the GG will not yet be called. As soon as that machine shop goes down, you're basically owned, right? He didn't even queue the Madrigal, which he could have done. Yep, there it is. So at least this one will be built. Unlikely that the Fulcrum dies. Oh, never mind. Here's some more. So there you go. The Fulcrum is dead. And it's going to be 100% GG. Even a single Madrigal wouldn't even solve the problem. He obviously cancels it so he can lift off. And he doesn't have enough anti-ground defense at this point, I don't think. This Starpad could have been training Ancials or something maybe, but I feel like it's all kind of a moot point. He never finished that captaincy. He never built more. He didn't use the Apostle that he had. He seems to have been overwhelmed in general. And I'm not sure what that sound was, but it sounded like there was a more distant explosion. Maybe something burned down. Although I feel... Oh, it was the cancellation of the captaincy. And yeah, it looks like he just... he rage quit. No GG or anything. So that is that. Yeah, really funny opening round. And hats off to Mist for taking game number 1. We do have a second game for you guys, so I'll show you that in just a moment. But first, the score screen. All right, that's it. Round number 2 on Equilibrium against Mystery Meat and the Shambler. So I should mention, I was actually given some information about the matchup here that I forgot to mention before. So the last game, it looks like it was random. So Mist randomed into Zerg, and then maybe picked Zerg, or maybe they were random in both matchups. I think maybe that's what I'm getting. It was a little bit unclear based on what the Shambler sent to me. So it looks like they were just random each time, and that's what ended up happening. So that was an interesting game. I think I will say the Shambler seems to... Again, I should actually ask him to comment on this on the video or something. Maybe he will. Maybe you can check the comments below and leave one of your own if you so desire. But I believe the Shambler would say that Terran is his weakest race, and so maybe that's why he tried to do something a little bit cheesy. Protoss he's been getting a little bit more comfortable lately with, and obviously Zerg is the bread and butter of his experience so far. But we do have a very interesting gas-heavy build by Mist, who has proven to not be a terrible slouch on Zerg, even though obviously he's got more game time as Terran, I think. And I think he plays all the races fairly reasonably, which is why I think he started to do some random stuff. So the Shambler is now... So we have the opposite spawn, same map, and the Shambler is going to be scouting Mist first. No crazy shenanigans so far, but the fast gas over here was just for Hydrock, so looks like that was fairly standard fare in terms of trying to get a really fast Hydrock, and it looks like as well that we have a very delayed response coming out from the Shambler. I think when he scouts the Hydrock, what does he want to do? He looks like he goes for a second Lattice. He was kind of delayed on that, even though like he could only either get a Lattice, a Nexus, or a... I guess he could go for a Grand Library really fast if he really wanted to. He had a lot of minerals, right? He had almost 300 banked, which is why I mentioned that. So there's some gas steal shenanigans happening. Nothing too crazy. And yeah, at this point, he's nearly got enough for 3 Hydras. So he's going to get the first 2, and then he'll get the third following that. And so this is an interesting timing here. This worker will be able to escape because there was no aggressive movements from the Sims. Maybe they can get here to a point where they can use their... Ooh, didn't actually happen. He could have obviously saved by retarded pathing. Well, that's what you think, but you didn't even move your units forward. So saved by retarded is a good start to that sentence, but not sure about pathing. I mean, I know pathing can be stupid in this game, but, you know, we'll just leave that for the viewer to decide. We do have a fairly bog standard opener here, and we do have the Fast Expo coming out from Mystery. What else is going to happen? Oh, I think I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the fact that he decollided when the burrow was forced up, and then like his second sim kind of spun. But the first sim was not busted, as we saw, so I don't think that's really a huge issue. Shambler also has a habit of typing when I think he should be doing something. So, an interesting decision there. So the big thing that you want to guard against when you're going up against a double lattice opener is, are they building... Basically, what unit are they building as a main reliable source of damage? Are they using vassals, in which case you're going to need a Spraith? Are they using Sims, which is what the case is for the Shambler? Or are they using Manifolds, which is going to hit later, but hit much harder? And if that's the case, you probably want, like, Quasrock to mix with your Hydras, or something to that effect. Sims, Hydras should be able to deal with this, especially with some Focus Fire. So, really no problems there. He's even a little bit lax on the Focus Fire a little bit later on into the game, so he loses an extra Hydra, which he didn't have to. But nothing too terrible there. Now, another round of Sims is available, as well as a pair of Vassals. But at this point, I think, because the aggression was not good enough to deny a base, he can go for another follow-up attack, and then expand behind it. And that could be very, very strong for the Shambler, because he would basically force the Zerg player to build more combat units, right? And as opposed to workers. And that's exactly what his early play has done. So even though he hasn't actually done damage insofar as he hasn't like killed workers, he hasn't killed the Hacharosk by any means or whatever, he's still in a position where he can deal some pretty good damage here. Now, he's also going to hit a lot more viciously than I suspected, because not only is he killing some workers here, he's also pulling all of the Hydras forward, and there's nothing in the back to defend against the Vassals. So at minimum, even this is a little bit async, like this is actually really, really poor, because as soon as this is cleared up, Mystery can move the Hydras up in here. So that's actually really unfortunate, because the Shambler could have done way more damage with this attack. But of course, you could just burrow to avoid this. At minimum, you are losing some workers. You can see, I think it's a total of 6 workers lost from that attack. So pretty significant, because there was 2 at the front that were getting attacked while they were harvesting gas. So very, very bad news for Mist. And even though he didn't lose too many military units, he still wants to rebuild some of those military units such that he can actually contend with what he's dealing with, right? So he's went lax on the static defense, and that has left his workers vulnerable. He could have lost maybe another one, but I think with only 2 vassals, it was unlikely. So at this point, yep, Shambler is just going to be safely expanding. You can see that he's ahead in workers by 7, which is not a trivial amount. And he's going to go ahead and set up some static defense at his natural. He already has a warden in the back of his main. He's looking to be in a very good spot because he's insulating himself against any sort of counterattack. And obviously, you could have gone maybe for some Skither cores or something to attempt that, but you know, at this point, I think Miss wants to play a more standard game as opposed to trying to dig himself out of the hole by going deeper, which is something that you could try to do, but I would not necessarily recommend. So, we got the vassals, we got the sims. There's a pause in effect because that happens all the time for Shambler. For whatever reason, I think he just has some shit that he has to deal with constantly. So that's always nice. But yeah, pretty much like every 3rd or 4th game that I play against him, assuming they go long at all, ends up with that. So I'm very familiar with that. And it can actually be quite deleterious to your ability to focus, right? And so that is something that you have to keep in mind. He always knows how to grief you, basically. He could be transferring some workers to his second base, but he's not going to. So, you know. It's a little bit easier to justify keeping workers at your base now that we've changed the wandering behavior. But when you think about it, like, at the very least, you could take the ones that are harvesting the 6-yield mineral fields and move them over here, right? And even then, it's like, people are still overbuilding workers quite a bit. And it's actually fine to do that because eventually you're going to transfer them anyway. But in this case, it doesn't really seem like there are any transfers at all. So, Skither cores have indeed been trained by Miss, but I think he's just using them as a way to scout around. Still very, very scant on static defense. And by scant, I mean he has literally nothing. So a vassal run by could be quite deadly, especially if there were any significant amounts. So both players scouting out, hey, where's all the bases? Has anybody taken extra hidden bases or whatever? Shambler likes to take hidden thirds and then get them sniped by vultures. So that's always good. Confirming no static defense, that should actually inform the Shambler that he can go for a crazy amount of lattices. And it's kind of a weird thing to see if you're missed, because you're like, oh, you know, Shambler has, you know, he just used his last 2 vassals from the earlier engagement, or I guess now this is the last one, which will be theoretically intercepted, especially now that it's tickling that. So, yeah, I think in that situation, you're like, oh, okay, that's the last vassal. Maybe he doesn't have any more. I won't even build any static defense. But that could be very... If this holds, and then there's lattices building vassals, you could just have all of your eco taken away from you. Some unfortunate suicide. Simicide. And what else is going down here? Just some Skither cores seeing what kind of aggression they can do. They will be able to pick off a single worker if they want to, but it doesn't look like they did. And I don't know what the fuck that was, but that looked like a hold position bug that DF told me was fixed. But I actually don't know what it was, so... It could have been that a worker was moving up there or something, and then the projectile traveled. I would have to... I encourage you to slow it down and check the replay, bro. Check the, check back in the video. I'll make DF do that, too. But, yeah. Hard to know. I don't think I even commented on this, but yeah, hold position being fixed. At least I wasn't able to reproduce any cases where hold position was causing insane increased range. Apparently, it's technically a vanilla bug, but it was just impossible to hit it normally. Because of like some other lardism that we ended up removing or something. I forget the exact explanation now. It's been too long, but that's something that was told to me by DF himself, who was able to fix it. Fixel. We do have this Hatterosk being put down here by none other than Mist, who is taking a 3rd. He's capped his 2nd gas. He's taking some macro hatches, or a macro hatch, as he gets his Quasark pool. So this is going to be his opportunity to transition into saving gas and going straight into just like big army, mostly for defensible stuff. He's able to snipe a single scribe. Oh, he's actually been given another one. And so you can see the breakpoint. If you're at 3 skiths, you can 2-shot scribes, 2-shot droliths as well. It obviously takes a little bit more effort to deal with them in deal with masons because of the extra health. So it would maybe tempt you to build 6 skiths, but obviously that's very expensive, right? So each skith being 100 minerals and 25 gas. They will just do a quick scouting pass, and they will see there are no other military structures. He just got owned because he didn't move his unit. I think he put it on hold position or something, which is why it didn't flee or retaliate or whatever. But yeah, transferring his workers over to his 3rd, A-OK. I think he's going to go ahead and cap that immediately. And he is climbing the money ladder, so to speak. He could definitely get another structure. He's getting his Orcish Shroud, actually, which indicates to me that he might want to stay on tier 1 for a little bit. but he is almost at the breakpoint of getting more. And I think he's going to do that. He's only harvesting from the ridge with 1 worker, which is a little bit of an inefficiency that is unlikely to cost him amazingly, but it would definitely, for example, give him 600 gas by now, right? So, just those things that you got to remember. More macro hatches. Love to see multi-building select in action through the selection feature there. And we can see what they're actually selecting and focusing on. No saturation over here, and no instant high roll either. These are all optimizations you can make. I say this knowing full well that I, too, am bad at this. So there it is. You can see the number plummeting. That's the Aurelaris being grabbed. And we do have, finally, a static defense structure. That's the first static defense structure that he has built this entire game. Now, contrast that to all of the static defense that you see from Shambler. And he was banking some incredible amounts of money earlier, too. He's going to go for an Argosy and an Ancestral Archives. So he looks like he's telegraphed here that he wants to be able to recall stuff. Now, we do have... this is a nice trick here from Mist. Technically, it's possible that you would not see a move out, but... so you'd want like more units here doing shorter paths or whatever, but patrolling for that is really good because it gives you the opportunity. Like, look at this, right? Because he was too slow on the, he's too broad. I'm not sure that he saw that, but he's responding as if he did. So maybe he did spot it. It is just a bunch of vassals, right? Nothing crazy. Ardent Authority here, you can spam out servitors. They're fairly useful combat units, and they are mineral only. So another thing that you can sink minerals into. At 1k minerals, he doesn't want to go down for any grand libraries, and the Didact is nearly complete. Nothing out of the Ancestral Archives yet. All that stuff does cost a decent amount of gas. I was debating whether to make it so that Archons only costed minerals, but make it like 500 minerals or 600 minerals or something ridiculous. Could be pretty funny. So here was a dive bomb onto some workers. Looks like only 1 worker kill, and you're targeting the mineral workers, which is something you never really want to do. Although he confirms the tech. No tier 2 tech actually achieved, even though he has tier 2. At least not at that base. There is the potential mind game. By the way, there's nobody harvesting gas from this, which is pretty bad. There is the potential mind game for, like, oh, I built all this stuff, and then I built my, like, Muthrock Spire at my natural or something. But that's pretty unlikely. So he can recognize that he's at tier 2, but he's not actually spending his money on anything. The Gorgor Swamp is coming up just after that. And Shambler should know that that's impending, right? He's massing up some more units. He's going to wait for the second Didact, because 2 Didacts... we removed the Lard design, where Didacts don't cloak each other, which has led to some interesting results. Because there's no read on what the game plan is for the Shambler, like Mist has no idea what Shambler is doing, he's not built any detection. So he only has the detection afforded by the tech, which obviously, like, eventually that won't even be a thing. Now we only have 1 guy harvesting from this Excision. What happened over here? He's saturated this, but now he's not fully saturated that. That's very strange. He's actually remained also on 3 bases for quite a while, where there is plenty of opportunity, both in terms of minerals and in terms of units and map control and stuff, to take another one. He doesn't want to do that, though. And yeah, if he did another flyby really quickly with the Skiths, I think that would indicate something to him. The Didacts are going to now hug the upper edge of the map and look for a recall. And this is something you can do, right? It's 600 gas, guys. 600. And you can see how long it took, like from the Argosy going down, I don't even remember when that was, but the Didacts individually take a long time to build and a long time to afford. So now here's the counterpoint. If the assault hits in time, then there is no chance that Mist will lose the fight over here, right? Because he's getting all these Bactylisks, he's got all the Quasilisk meat shields, he can just straight up fight, like attack in, and there will be nothing for the Didacts to recall, or very limited amounts of stuff for the Didacts to recall. There is an Uptecton out. Another one coming. That can try to defend against this, but it really depends on the timing here. Now, this is kind of cheeky. One of them was tasked onto the other Didact, and so it didn't even get aggro or whatever. So here's another recall attempt that's going to try to recall this, and you can see what is going to be the response from Mist. He could just dive in, but he's actually going to attempt to respond. And again, this is because there's been no scouting, there's been no attempt at understanding what is being done. And yeah, we have this Uptecton doing something very strange. So the Uptecton was recently changed. And I think part of it was probably because of the experience that Shambler had. But also just in general. There's a good preemptive stasis there. Remember, stasis is now a channel. And so it's actually really solid there from Shambler to spot that out and pick it. He can afford another one, but his army is just getting chewed through. So he's just going to evacuate with the Didax, the Avaleth not chasing it, and not really able to, right? You would want an Iroleth for more movement speed if you wanted to chase these down. They have similar movement speed, right? But, well, yeah, so there goes his whole army. But Uptectons do have this weird behavior where they always go to max range with their projectile, which means you want to have them in the back line, right? Now, I have decided to change this, but it does mean that you will now deal way more friendly fire damage. Because, like the Penumbra, the Uptecton is ally unsafe splash, and it means that the Uptecton will be dealing damage to yourself if you are closed in upon or if you have melee. So, I think that's fine from a design standpoint or whatever, but it does mean that, and maybe it's more intuitive or whatever, but it does mean that there will actually be problems. So we do have the stasis field here coming out. One of the Didax has already been sniped. And there you go, a big stasis chunk here actually just slowing things down, really. Now the Uptecton is trying to hold off. Another stasis field, pretty good, reasonable. You don't really always want this sort of thing for, you know... Okay, the Didact is going to just get sniped down here, unfortunately. You don't always want that in particular, but versus Zerg, right? But this fight definitely has favored Mist, even though his army is going to get cleaned up and the reinforcements also going to get cleaned up. The fact is, he's got a 4th base up and running. He's getting a 5th, or sorry, he's getting a 3rd base up and running because this base did get sniped. So they traded bases, right? But there's already another one up. He's got a Bactalisk in there. He's going to hopefully unload that. And yeah, I think maybe Shambler has figured out that he has to stay at max range. Although I did tell him that earlier anyway, but he probably forgot. Now he is getting another Didact. A shame he didn't keep the other one alive. Definitely could be useful here. And yeah, the Avaleth, as long as it lives, is going to offer detection. Now if it's stunned, it's different, right? It doesn't offer detection while stunned. But Shambler is now onto 1 base. He does have some tech. He has some money banked up. Why do Servitors cost 200? That's a good question. You're getting 2 per, and... you obviously they deal a crazy amount of damage. Now they're not very defensible, right, in terms of individual durability, but you can pair that with Clarions. You can pair that with a front line that peels for them. They only have 5 range, which is the same as a Maverick, so they do need to get in relatively close. I mean, it's not the same, or it is the same as a Hydra actually. And we do obviously have the fact that like they could pretty much go toe to toe in terms of their DPS. But he doesn't have that many. Oh, Vassals are a great addition as well, because obviously when the Vassal dies, it increases movement speed, lets you get in closer, lets you kite more, and obviously increases attack speed, right? So, of course, there will be balance complaints because Shambler is bad and he is losing. So those two things combined make you complain about balance. It's like a law of nature. Single Quasilisk, just seeing what's going on over here. Instantly smacked and slapped. What's going to happen? There's another base. Oh, no, I thought this was going to be a worker. What's the tech out? What? I don't know what the fuck that is. That's some TISM. Apparently the... Oh, it's not happening anymore. What the fuck? There was some strange behavior happening over there. All right, so he's going to try to move out and break the contain. He doesn't have a crazy front line, and he's leaving behind a lot of his stuff. I think the Uptectons are doing pretty well over here, obviously because they have a front line, and because the Hydras aren't moving in close. The Uptectons end up doing quite a bit of damage. Now, I think this fight, with the new Uptecton, he would just kill most of his stuff, right? So, it might end up backfiring. A million Calculisks, however... What can you really do against that? You can stasis, but then they'll unstasis all at the same time. And yeah, I think maybe that's just a little bit rough. Oh, I do see that there's this is the permacloak issue that was being reported earlier, where there's... I mean, it doesn't say it's cloaked. It just has the overlay. So maybe it's not actually cloaked. I see this over here. And they are also not actually cloaked. So it might just be like some weird remapping visual. Hard to say. Hard to say. Calculisks obviously have been slapped. And the Uptectons now slowly getting slapped. And so this is the biggest problem, right? Is like if the projectile isn't actually... it's not piercing the target correctly or whatever, right? So this is some weird bug that I haven't really been able to figure out. Because it pierces buildings, but not units. So it's something about its collision. But increasing the unit search radius or whatever didn't actually fix the problem. So anyway, now you can see the Uptecton doing a proper amount of damage. Oof! I was expecting that oof to coincide with like 4 or 5 Hydras dying, but instead it was just 1 and the rest of them got splash damaged. And a single Amaranth tickling over here. A couple more units arriving in tow. This is sort of how you want to play this if you're Shambler. You want to like throw a bunch of units out at like these undefended satellite bases. Oh, he said. So it looks like visually they have it, but they don't have the status, which makes me feel like they are actually targetable. But I would have to watch them in combat, and I don't know if there's any combat units that are going to show up here. Okay, true. Bunch of workers ran over here, it looks like, and burrowed. So even though he's only on 1 base, Mist is not really able to compete with the army, it looks like. That might be the problem. Yeah, you can see he wasn't actually cloaked because the Bactyl's projectile bounced to him. So it's just a visual bug then. That makes me feel a little bit better because it means that at least like it wasn't a problem of units sitting there and just getting some sort of crazy benefit. It's just a visual issue, which is probably something that also is related to something that I think it was like a DFMM patch recently or something to that effect. Maybe he'll have some ideas on how to do that. Tons of idle workers here and no attempt at expanding again. Make it so that this is still on a knife's edge. Got a bunch of workers spinning around. And what else can you say? Shambler's trying to figure out what's happening here. 5-1. What does 5-1 mean? Oh, I guess he's comparing it to Sims? That's probably what he's doing. I mean, they have 1 armor on Sims. They obviously have all the shields. These are mostly a successor to Manifolds, so he's making an incorrect comparison there. Which is understandable, because obviously they come in 2, right? So he'll continue musing on balance while Mist continues to build Zerg here. He has set this base up yet again. He has tier 2.5, but he's not building anything for it. So I think he's going to rectify that situation. I actually haven't really been focusing too much on Mist, admittedly, in like the last 10 minutes or whatever. Because what is he really doing? Like, I have no idea. But he's going to go ahead and try to take a 5th base. And again, Shambler still is not expanding. He's still dead set on winning the game on 1 base, it looks like. Even though he's been given this significant amount of breathing room. For the sake of, like, he can just go ahead and start reading stats off and typing them and stuff, and he's not getting owned, right? So that is definitely an interesting situation. Now, he's A-moving all these units over. I don't know what's going on there, because he's just going to drip feed them over. Now, the Bactylus did just cause a bunch of splits to happen. A bunch of units coming in from the side should shut this attack down, no problem, but he might be able to focus down the hatch and at least delay the eco, and looks like that he's going to go for the workers instead, but he could go for that. Yeah, there you go, he figured it out. Obviously, still doesn't have the 200 bonus HP. That has not changed. And but I don't think it would have mattered in this case anyway, but, you know, you never know, right? Maybe it would have psychologically made it so that he goes for the workers instead. Now, he is going to discover this base, which is, you know, useful. Him saying damage is not great just reminds me of when, like, Kian built maybe 50 of them and just A-moved, like, a base that had phalanxes and sentinels and stuff in bunkers. And, like, I don't know if he was microing at all, but it didn't feel like he was doing too much about it. And so it's like, I just think about that. I'm like, yeah, you're right, Shambler. They definitely don't do that much damage. But, yeah, you know how it is. You know how it goes sometimes, you know? Some people just need to use the thing a few times, maybe in a few different contexts and matchups. Now, he does have this 1 didact, but he's not going to use it to try to recall units. He obviously could scout out for more bases. You know, this base has been undefended this entire time. He could, like, move a didact over there, recall a band of units while the rest of his army sort of holds ground and stuff, and he can use this and then just, like, walk away, right? So he has a single Magister. I'm not sure what he was doing with that specifically or for what reason. He will transfer a bunch of scribes over there. Looks like he's not fully saturated his ridge, so he could go a little bit higher on gas there, and he's not even getting gas from this. So Mist definitely ahead in the economic department. He's rebuilt a hatch in his 3rd, and is trying to take a 5th here. with his fourth still happily churning away with resources, and Shambler still complaining about balance instead of playing the game. It's all right, man. You got to be, you got to just you know, give it a little bit of mockery, right? Subtle, good-natured laughing, and that's it. That's all you need. He's on, you know, he's now gotten a second base, so he's now able to maybe afford more of them to get to a point where he can deal a lot of damage. And I just like that Mist has not responded at all this entire time. It's just like, I'm playing the game, bro, and you seem to be playing the keyboard. Still no gas over here either. Again, this is the kind of thing you could do if you weren't typing, right? Although I don't know what his focus is right now. This almost feels like a point where we've lost sync or something with the replay. But Mist is still doing shit, so I'm just going to go ahead and assume, you know, Shambler's keeping his money kind of low. He's building some more static defense. Maybe you would want some Crucibles over here. That's actually one of the downsides to have the Crucible being a town center, a resource drop-off point, is that you have to move it pretty far from the resources. So in a map like this, I guess you could put it up here, or you could put it in the choke or something. You tier 3 yet? Shambler could have just attacked, like, so many things. 2.56. That's a tier. Dude, imagine if we started adding a second tier decimal. Like, all right, well, tier 2.5 is, like, the Matrolith, but then, like, the Vilgoricore is tier 2.56. You have to, like, upgrade your Matraval Nest and all this other shit. I was actually, you know, since we've been talking... in that last episode of Prototype, the second episode, I talked about mirror matchups, and I also talked a heavy amount of Zerg. And because of Zerg... because of Zerg being so like different from all the other races, where their structures are built from workers. Their workers share production queues, if you want to call them that, with military, and their their military is like, what do you call it? Well, weaker than the other races' military on a head-to-head, like, 1v1 fight, but they, you know, rely on strength and numbers and stuff. Like, eventually you can get to that point, but I think about it like, man, what can you really do? What can you really accomplish? It's an interesting conundrum, I think. But anyway, when you're thinking about it like that, you might think to yourself, what can you... by the way, let me count the Kafralosks. Okay, this is 900, so this is half of his cost already. And he actually has 1,800 now, so he can spend it. It's fine. Safe. If you didn't get the tier 2.5, which you didn't even use, it looks like. He bought the Matrable Nest, but isn't using it. He hasn't trained any units from it. Yeah, so. It's all right, boys. This replay series is just balance complaints, the series. Or I guess... Well, it's mostly just been this game, I suppose. The first one is just funny. All that Avaleth, all it did was reveal that there is still a Didact in play. So yeah, when I was talking about the stuff in Prototype, obviously it made me think about like our plans to have races that people will make connections to Zerg with. And obviously the main one is the Orlithray from Xibalba. And the Orlithray are going to have egg slots instead of larvae, so they won't be spawning like external larvae. But I'm pretty sure that what we're going to do is we're going to make the tech nodes spawn larvae, or sorry, not spawn larvae, have egg slots that are like specifically for that unit. And so like each Matraval Nest equivalent will have like maybe 2 egg slots, and in those slots will give you, you know, other things or whatever, right? Oh, this has also been changed as well, by the way. If your base unit is 2 and 1 egg, so it's a Vorvercore, well, sorry, a Zethracore or a Nathercore or a Sikralisk, you get 2 and 1 egg from the Kafralosk morph as well. That just wasn't handled by the default code because it's kind of like a weird extra layer, but it's done now. So... all good. See, some of the things are actually errors or oversights and easy to fix, and other things are just user error. I would say, like the fact that this game is still going on. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe Mist is playing with his food a little bit. Could result in Shambler taking the dub, to be fair. Magister's engaging over here. He hasn't really lost anything yet, so yeah, this base is just forfeit. The Vithrilisks will help with the Magisters, but not really with anything else. He was hoping to maybe snipe some Didacs with them, I think. He's occupying the time of a lot of the units to attack the Vithrilisk instead, so there's that. But the Hatchrusk does fall in the end. Here come the Vithrilisks to chase down the Magisters. Here come the Bactylisks to whittle down the Atriuses that have been unprotected, and he'll just rebuild the Hatchrusk. Not a crazy amount of damage, and that was most of Shambler's army, I think. So it is potentially over right here and now. But Bactyls will move a little bit forward. I think maybe he's just going to continue trying to defend or something. Shambler realizing he could have recalled, you know, units to all these bases to kill the stuff. Like, there's no defenses in it, pretty much any of them. Now, there are Ultra Caverns in play, or there is an Ultra Cavern in play. And that does mean, of course, that I think maybe he was doing some quick math there or something. He will go straight for the Ultra Cores. Another Kaffirlosk still doesn't care about these workers. Nobody taking the side bases yet. This base being taken a while ago. Apparently, I didn't notice that. That's yeah. This is a crazy, incredible amount of income, and he's even going to get more Kaffirlosks. Obviously, he could go for Gaths here as well for double the units. Spend maybe some of his minerals. Gathlosk cost has also been changed recently. And yeah, pretty much. I really don't think that's true because of the durability. In particular, because when they decollide, they just spaz out all the units near them. So, but we'll let Shambler continue to preach his heresy and nonsense. Yeah, he's see, Mystery Me knows what's up. The decollision just stops them from being able to be used. There was actually a suggestion a while ago for Rilla Row cores to not have collision or something, or have half of the current collision, but they already kind of overlap. I did shrink it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be sufficient. I think Brood War pathing is just too silly. Yeah, this game definitely petered out in terms of interest towards the end, unfortunately. I was sent this and I thought it would be a solid game. The first game delivered, was a banger. This game was mostly just Shambler complaining until the end of the game, right? So, unfortunate. There you go. Some Gathalosks happening. What I like to do is I usually put my Kaffirlosks on one control group and my Hatches and Gaths on another, because obviously they give you different larvae and stuff. Using production with multi-building select as Zerg is like brain dead easy, whereas the other races definitely need more care, especially Protoss. Protoss is probably the hardest race to like macro spend your money with, because usually you don't have a million of the same structure, right? Here come the Vithrils. Oh, I think they could have probably stuck around and stopped that, but I'm actually not sure why Shambler chose this position to recall in. Maybe because he was spotted by the Ovolith, but he could have just walked past it and recalled over here. This would have been a far deadlier position to be in. Especially since Kaffirlosks have such pitiful amounts of health, you can snipe them very easily, and they're 300 gas a pop, so pretty rough, but okay, he's gonna maybe wrap around and try to attack this. What is he doing? What's going on? All these Ultra Cores are just gonna charge down the main gates, and nothing is going to survive. I mean, I like the number, but I do wish maybe they had actually attacked a while ago. And I do feel like Shambler just tilted off the game here. He could have done a lot more. Oh, he's actually recalling them back? Where'd they go? Yeah, he recalls them back. Yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? Hi. What the fuck? Hello? Okay. See ya. Yeah. Very strange. Very strange stuff indeed. Well, Mr. Ultra Core, get it over with. Yeah, I agree, Mist. You could have won this game like 10 minutes ago, bro. It's not still castable, but I'll do you a solid here. We haven't had a cast over in a while, so might as well. I think it stopped being like conventionally castable a long time ago. Long time ago. There will be a bit of an Alamo hold. He does have a bunch of quasis, and they are going to interrupt the pathing of everything else. Backless sort of tickling. Oh, here we go. The charge is in. A little bit of micro here can definitely help because the Ultra Cores consume corpses when they walk over them to get the Kaiser Rampage. And there you go. There's some more. Yeah. And away it goes. I like the Irolith. Oh, it cancels just so you can see the Didact, I think. Good stasis is. He could have stasis this block and then they wouldn't have even been able to enter. That's like the big brain force field, really. The Avaleth has stolen an Ultra Core. It's just it's a Brood War A move, bro. I love that. Just maybe this is the thumbnail, honestly. All right, we do have more units being produced here. The Nexus still holds. The gas does not. And it looks like maybe the Didacts are going to get sniped because of poor micro. Vithrilisks are still in the bottom. They mid-right or whatever. They haven't really shown up. And these Bactylisks are not moving, so there has to be a tiny trickle of a single Ultra Core at a time to get through here. That's next level. There you go. Trying to charge forward. Taking those corpses. Gobble, gobble. Nexus finally falling. All right, how many Ultra Cores does he have? He has more. He's got some Zarkaver cores as well coming up. So he's tower defense is not over yet. A little bit of micro here. Servitor is being pretty good here. They pierce the armor of the Ultra Core. But obviously, it's not going to be enough. Doesn't have enough of them. Magister's in, but also not going to matter because all the units are already on you, so you don't get the range bonus, really. And their Zarkaver cores are in. But these are best against crowds of units that deal limited damage. But you know what? It doesn't matter at this point. They'll go ahead and pop as well. Confetti balloons. More units. What does Mist even do? I think he's just at home. He's not even looking at the attack force, I think. That's my suspicion, anyway. And this Nexus was being attacked even before the Avaleth was detecting, so you can tell that it's just cosmetic. Let it not be sad that I didn't try. Well, I would say you didn't try. So that's what I would say. I like all the scribes being caught up over here. Well, I guess that's the game. The GG's called maybe 20 minutes later than it should have been. But you know what? That's it. Next time, it's all crab. What a prophetic and interesting threat at the end there. Yeah, I think the longer... So when people try a tool immediately and then they don't see immediate power coming out of that tool, they often will disregard that tool and be like, all right, it's not worth it. But you got to have a little bit more of an open mind, man. And maybe the biggest issue is that you didn't have enough of the servitors. So that's why they weren't really able to dish out insane amounts of damage. Another potential issue would be that you were fighting an army that... was not static, so could kite, and outranged you a lot of the time with the Bactylisks. I think that obviously contributed. Obviously, you had Didacts. You could have recalled to do a repeat of the play that you had done earlier to snipe the third base. That would have been really good for sniping the fourth base, for denying the fifth and sixth, and then basically allowing you to take some bases for yourself and continue, you know, the movement in that sense. It didn't really feel like you committed too heavily to the servitors, so... and they're mineral only anyway. So it's not like it massively impacted the ability for you to flow outward in the tech path. Maybe the Didacts were an overcommittal because you didn't use them again later, but that's sort of a separate thing, right? And then, you know, around the 25-minute mark, it stops really being an analyzable game because it's over, mostly due to tilt, I think. So that is that. That's what I have to say for now. At this point, I think it's probably fair to move out and do another cast over later on. Maybe there will be a revisit of this matchup. Maybe somebody will show the power of the Servitor. And of course, maybe people will show the new Optecton, and that it might actually be worse than the old Optecton. The old one was just a little bit clunky, whereas the new one just kills all your units. That's my suspicion. We'll see if it's founded or not, and we'll see who decides to take home the crown next time around, because right now it's Mystery Meat. So the reigning champion of this particular matchup. Until next time.